And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, comment on the video, and make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. JD, we're like 40 subscriptions away from hitting 2,000. I would really like to get to 2,000. So I'd like to get to 2,000 like sooner rather than later. I'm not going to put like a deadline on it, but I'd really, that would mean a lot to us, and it'd be really helpful to our channel to get to 2,000. So everybody make sure you're a subscriber, and also subscribe to the Voices of Wrestling channel too. I would greatly appreciate it. All right, well, let's get over to some AEW talk. No more TNA talk. TNA fans, I see you in the chat. I love you guys. I'm going to be doing some more TNA stuff coming up during the week. I am actually going to write an article about Tessa Blanchard, and then I'm also going to do an end of the year article about TNA's business turning around starting in June of last year. I'm going to update an article that I had already written, but I'm actually going to make it a little bit better and probably put it out for more people. So TNA fans, I see you. We're going to talk some AEW stuff right now because we talked about TNA's business kind of on the upswing at the box office, at pay-per-views, and actually even in like October, November a little bit, like they actually had like a small ratings uptick where they're back in the top 150. In fact, at one point they're in the top 100. Now, of course, that all went to shit when they, on Thanksgiving, Access moved their show to midnight and they only got 18,000 viewers. But other than that, they've actually done pretty decent, and it's causing them to book big arenas. Well, the opposite has happened for AEW. They're booking smaller arenas, and I think that's a smart idea. Their ratings are drastically going down. This is from the Observer. So ratings in the 18 to 34 demographic have dropped drastically, with the December 11th episode drawing 70,000 viewers in the demo compared to 165,000 viewers for last year's Winter is Coming. I don't think that is a decline caused by loss of cable homes on TBS. I think that is loss of interest in the company. There, you would expect there to be a little bit, but that is over half that they've lost. Rampage, they went from they drew 9,000, and last year it was 43,000 in the same week. In the 18 to 49, or the 35 to 4, 18 to 34. Sorry. And live attendance and house shows attendance at AEW events is stagnant, mirroring declines in ratings. House shows are an indicator of fan engagement, financial health, and the decline started well before TV ratings and pay-per-view buy rates fell. But they still remain profitable because they just got a $555 million three-year TV and streaming deal with WBD that has insulated the company from financial woes. But this only extends until the end of 2027. They did get a little bit of good news. All in Texas at Globe Life Field sold 6,000 tickets with gross revenue surpassing $1.25 million. Man, how expensive are those freaking tickets? It's the third highest grossing event in AEW's history. It would be behind the previous two All Ins. So what is going on? I think the ratings and then the ticket sales, that really is scary for this company.
I agree. I did a JD Oliva project, I think earlier in the week, where
you've done 2 of those this week, man. You were on a roll, brother.
Dude, you gave me the idea of just to record stuff on the phone and not worry about the slick video production, and you were right, man. I did
it works, and people love it, so keep it up. People love
I'm gonna, because I have time in the car and I have thoughts. So like, there's kudos to my friend Mike Gilbert on this one. Anyways, I did one on Batman Revelations. So if you like Batman, like Batman 89, good book. Check it out. Check out my review. I also did one on Tony Khan. Like this Post Wrestling put up a thing saying, should Tony Khan step down as head of creative? And a lot of people were like, yes, absolutely. And in theory, I agree that Tony Khan is burnt out. I think you see it right now too. I think what we're seeing right now is mirroring WCW 1987. I think we're seeing WCW 1987 into 1988. So the difference being is like when WCW or NWA Crockett, I should say, hit this spot in 1988, they sold to Turner and they were basically done. The true story is when Dusty, that was when that happened. Dusty got a little bit of a creative reboost and things started to pick up in 88. Mm-hmm. But Dusty messed up and got fired.
Yeah.
Which actually, the whole tumultuous thing, we're seeing the opposite of AW. They got insulated. So I do think that Tony Khan should step down as head of creative because I think he's burnt out. Here's the problem. Who's going to take his spot?
Ding, ding, ding. I mean, I have a name, but he's never been fired from WWE, so I don't think they'll bring him in.
I agree with you, and like I'd like to talk more about that, but I cannot.
Yeah.
So I do think that I don't think anyone in that company. I think if you told me that Jen Pepperman should head that company, I'd tell you you're crazy because her stuff sucks. Like I don't care what people tell me. I don't care how well liked she is. I don't care that I know the women are getting more opportunities now, and some of the stuff is better than it was, but no one's watching the show right now, right? People aren't. I mean, like they had something cool with Moxley, and they managed to make that not cool, right? The they don't push the C2 enough to make it something special. Like they're very bad at promoting their business. Right? They're so bad at promoting wrestling. So that nothing ever seems cool. Like it just, and that's the problem is like you tell me Jen Pepperman or Will Washington or who else is there? It's a dork. RD Reynolds. You tell me these people can
Sanjay Dutt.
Sanjay. I mean, like none of these people can run a wrestling. I saw some stupid suggestions like Eric Bischoff. It's like, come on, man. Come on, use your fucking brain.
Did you see who Eric Bischoff suggested?
No.
He said Tony should step down and he should hire Bully Ray to be his head booker.
See, this why do people listen to this guy? Like, why does anybody listen to him? I heard Jim Cornette, like Jim Cornette's Ring of Honor stuff didn't draw any money. Like they've lost money with Cornette booking. Like, this is the thing is they need Tony Khan was a fresh voice in pro wrestling in 2019 and 2020, right? He was a guy from the outside who was doing different things, who listened to people around him and hired a bunch of business. Well, you have to hire that guy there in WWE. Like now the product feels like WWE and the AEW fan base doesn't want a WWE product. And now we're too far gone. So, you know, you listened about Max last year, you hired Jen Pepperman, you hired all these people from WWE, and I don't really care who thinks I'm an asshole for saying all these things, but you took away your voice. And now you're to the point where how do you turn back? You can't turn the Titanic around. You can't. Like, I don't know I know one guy who could actually make legit changes over there, but they won't hire him. I don't think Tony is secure enough in his masculinity to bring in somebody that could outperform him.
I think that's a very good point. And the problem is if he did bring in somebody that could outperform him, would he allow that to happen?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because I mean, if you go back, and I'm not guys, I'm going to compare him to Vince. I'm not comparing him to Vince as far as being a human being. Okay,
grow up.
I'm not doing that. So if that's what you're thinking, you're a stupid person. Okay, but if you take a look, so I think the comparator as far as being promoter and like head of creative and CEO, the other guy that's doing that in America that's done that has been Vince, right? And Vince would bring in people, but he was always the decision maker, right? He would have Pat Patterson and Bruce Pritchard and Vince Russo, and even at one point in time he had Bill Watts, and he's always had other people in the room.
Jarrett.
Yeah, Jerry Jarrett. He at one point he hired Paul Heyman and Eric Bischoff to manage separate shows, but everything went through him anyway, right? And so I get the feeling it's like the buck's always going to stop with Tony no matter what, because
it's his company. It kind of has to.
He's got 4 different titles in that company. He's the head of creative. He's the president, the CEO, the chief financial. He's like everything with that company. And it's like, take off some of those hats, right? And it's like, yeah, you could be the ultimate decision maker, but at some point you got to just take a step back and let people create, and they might actually bring you some good ideas. The problem is the people that you've brought in are filled with ideas from WWE that your audience doesn't want, right? The reason why AEW was a movement is because they were the anti-WWE. But now all they are is just another content farm that nobody really cares about anymore. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the show still. For the most part, I still enjoy the show. The difference is I'm apathetic to the show, and I could take it or leave it. This week, I made sure to watch Dynamite. That way I have something to talk about on the podcast. But I kind of forced myself to watch it. I wasn't looking forward to it. And that's the problem, right? Like if AEW came to my town, I would check it out. But if AEW is 3 hours away, I'm probably not going to go because that's inconvenient to me, right? But back in the day, I would have gone anywhere close to where AEW is at to make sure that I was going to their show. Unfortunately for me, they've never really been close to me, so I've never been able to make it to a show. But
I've been to tons. I've been to tons of AEW shows. I've probably been to 10 AEW shows over the last 5 years. Like, and every time I go, it gets less and less fun. Like I went, like last show I went to was 2 weeks ago. When was the last time I watched Dynamite? Like we have kids practice on Wednesdays, and I used to stay up late to watch Dynamite, and I'm tired now, and it's just I just can't justify staying up. Like there was times I would go to work super tired on Thursday morning because I was not going to miss Dynamite. And now it's like, I'll catch up later. And then I never do. And I don't watch Collision. I don't watch Rampage anymore because it's just not fun. Like it just isn't a fun show anymore. Like, and that's no one's fault but Tony Khan.
Yeah.
Right? It's your show. You wanted to be the guy. Like you gotta, and this is a part of time too, is this dude has such a hard time taking responsibility for his failures. Right. And then we all have failures. And Vince McMahon was the same way. Like, this is why I don't think it's over, because Vince McMahon had a lot of times, like, watch early 90s Raws. They fucking sucked. Like, watch any Raw from like 2003 on. Like, it's just, I just don't know how. The problem with being a billionaire is that like everyone kisses your ass and tells you how great you are your whole life because they want something from you, right? You have this thing called money that everybody wants, and everybody's really going to tell you what you want to hear because they want some of your money. So you have an unrealistic expectation of what you can do and what people think of you. And it all revolves on the fact that you have a lot of money. So, I mean, like everyone shits on Tony Khan, but he's got a nice little circle around him telling him, you know, what he needs to hear. Right. Because one, they want to keep their jobs. Two, they want an opportunity. So they try to be nice to get their opportunity. So like, you don't get real. Like, and I think that he's insecure enough that he would never turn the reins over to anybody else, even for a hiccup. Like, but you look at Memphis, Jarrett and Lawler would like book 6 months out. Like Jarrett would have 6 months, Lawler would have 6 months. Then they bring in Dundee. Like, even like Bill Watts would bring in different bookers to UWF Mid-South at times. Like,
yeah,
I just
JD during UWF's hottest period, who was booking for UWF?
Bill Dundee.
Yeah, he brought in Bill Dundee from Memphis, and he just handed over the book, and he was there in a leadership role. He probably tweaked some ideas here and there, but he just let him run wild, and then and Dundee was doing some pretty innovative stuff at the time. And had some hot feuds like Revolt. Like, was it Dundee that brought in like the Midnight Express and
Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express? They brought in Memphis. They brought a taste of Memphis into UWF. Right? They never had anything like that there. Like, and he also booked like the Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Ted DiBiase feud. Right? Like, this was like big stuff for, and that's like the hottest time of Mid-South was actually when the Dog was on his way out. Yeah. Right? So it's crazy to think about that. But I mean, but then Dundee was out, and then I forget who took over after Dundee, but eventually like Eddie Gilbert gets the book there toward the end. Like they had bookers would rotate in. So you have a different creative flair. Like we don't have that anymore. And I think that Tony Khan could do that, but I don't think he's secure enough to say, hey, I need time to recharge. Like it's a disappointing thing when a creative can't admit to himself that he's a little burnt out and needs to step away. Right. Yeah. And I think that the show, it's not fun anymore. It's not a bad show, but it's also not a good show. Right. Like Dynamites used to be super fun, and they're not super fun anymore. So what do you do? Like just keep doing the same thing, I guess, over and over because you got your money now. And I don't think he cares.
Yeah. And that's the problem. The problem is that, I think it was Sugar Ray Leonard said that it's really hard to get up in the morning and train when you're laying in a bed with satin sheets. Right after you've already made the money, it's really hard to get back out there and grind. You typically train your hardest when you're the hungriest, and right now AEW doesn't seem like they're a hungry promotion. It just seems like a collection of Tony's favorites from when he was a childhood fan, right? Edge and Christian and Shelton and Bobby Lashley and Chris Jericho and all these other guys, and then just some hot stars from the indies, and they're all just kind of like taking turns doing stuff. It's just like there's no real like true direction. There's no significant storyline that's really capturing the attention and making you want to tune in every week. They had me for a little bit with the Moxley thing, and that's a big disappointment for me. They dropped it, and it died the moment that they had a bunch of I guess I call them J words. I don't want to get in trouble, but a bunch of enhancement talent. And maybe like 1 or 2 stars standing outside the arena to confront them, but none of the stars actually cared, right? And like Team AEW was just like team a few guys, right? And then the whole thing just kind of like sucked, and now they're heading to a fatal 4-way, and they called it a fatal 4-way. Jon Moxley called it a fatal 4-way coming up at World's End, right? And one of those people in the match, Hangman Adam Page, has no like sporting reason to be in the match. He's done nothing but lose major matches, but he just kind of like he's just in there. So
he beat Swerve. He did beat Swerve.
He beat Swerve, but then he lost 2 straight to Jay White.
He did do that.
Yeah, and now he's getting a title shot with Jay White. Like it just doesn't make. They're trying to make it make sense. It just makes no sense to me.
Because he wants a 4-way. Because they don't have anybody. Like they don't have like the Moxley thing lost steam the moment they tried to make Orange Cassidy the top babyface.
Yeah,
it didn't work. Like that should not be what the character is. Like I get why they didn't want to go with Darby right away, but I think you should have gone with Darby right away because it would have been hot, right? Like coming out of that pay-per-view, I think you could have gotten something with Moxley and Darby right away. And then if Darby loses, he could always come back and rebuild himself because it's Darby Allin. He's an underdog character. Like, but with Orange Cassidy, it still doesn't work. And I don't feel like Jay White or Hangman is more. You know, they want to keep Swerve away from it a little bit. But I mean, like, and they to dump water all over because we heard from a friend of ours that when Will Ospreay was at his hottest in this company, we heard that his quarter hours aren't the best they should be, so we need to like build Ospreay up a little bit. Well, how's that worked out? How's that gone for you guys? Huh? You had something going there, and then you made him put over Swerve, but you didn't have to do that. You could have put somebody else in that spot. Like, I don't understand why we had to take why we had to take the wheels out of these guys. Why have to take them out from their knees? Like, you guys are in charge of this. Like, it was needless stuff. Like, it's death by 1,000 cuts time and time again. If someone's fucking hot, ride them. It's not that hard, pro wrestling. It really isn't. But they make it so hard, and here's the problem. They make it so boring.
Yeah. So they really did have something with Ospreay. The crowd was responding to him like a megastar. The quarter hours are going to come later. Dave spells it out perfectly in The Observer, where first the house shows will decline and then followed by the ratings. And I feel like it's be the opposite. Like if at the arenas they're responding to somebody, I think the ratings are going to like end up following that. Like they were making a big star. They really should have pulled the trigger on Ospreay being the top star in this promotion over the summer, but he lost and then they cooled him off and now he's still one of the most amazing wrestlers I've ever seen, but he's not a star. It sucks.
Okada's the same way. They brought in Okada. They had him just say bitch over and over again. And they took that was cool about Okada for a storyline this elite storyline that went nowhere. Tony tried to make him relive the early 90s or late 90s. Like it's so the story of this company in 2024 is so disappointing because it was so bad in 2023. The Brochachos thing really took this wind out of so many sails, and then they just kept fucking up. They just kept getting it got interesting when Danielson came back. Like, okay, that was pretty cool. Like the final countdown, that was fun. But then after that, they've had no follow-up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And now in 2024, we're trying to make Ricochet happen. Ricochet is one of the most amazing like in-ring competitor, like as far as like athletic moves and stuff like that. But he cannot cut a promo to save his life. so and I wanted him to come in and just do flippy shit, but that didn't mean I wanted them to push him like crazy. And now they're going to bring in Speedball, and I get the feeling they're going to try to push Speedball. And he's just kind of another guy that can't cut promos, that just has good matches that nobody's going to care about. And I like Speedball.
This used to be a promotion where you had to cut a promo. This used to be a promotion like a Crockett where dudes would just grab the microphone and tell compelling stories. I remember some empty arena stuff with John Moxley and Eddie Kingston when they were just cutting promos on each other. And it was like some of the most compelling TV you ever saw for wrestling. And like, we're not there anymore. Like now we're breaking cars and shit every week. Like it's like stop being the 90s. Stop trying to do attitude era bullshit. Do something different. Stop just trying to pretend you have your favorite wrestling company. Like, just be original. It's not hard.
Oh man, that AEW is so frustrating because I love that company from its inception up until like towards the end of last year. And then now I've just been trying to make it happen again in my life. I just like it feels like I'm in an abusive relationship with them because every once in a while they'll do something. It's like, oh man, AEW is back. They restored the feeling. They restored the feeling, and I'm just like, now I have no feelings towards them whatsoever. I'm just,
I know.
you know, because
Apathy, man.
yeah, it's apathy because the movement is gone. The movement died, right?
Mhm.
And that was the thing. They were gonna change wrestling for the good. They were gonna make wrestling better for everybody, and they weren't gonna pull the same shenanigans and tactics that WWE was pulling. And now they're not doing the, you know, ungodly, immoral things that WWE is allegedly, you know, whatever. If you want to say allegedly, you know, I think we kind of know like what happened there.
I think
Yeah.
legally you have to say allegedly.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to get defamation. I don't have any money, but like what they're allegedly put. I'm just talking about like the product that they're putting on the screen and like the way they're doing some of their contract stuff. It's like they're kind of doing some of the similar stuff that WWE was doing, and they're getting away because WWE did it first, and so it's weird. I think they you know, as far as some of the things are kind of giving up a little bit of the moral high ground. I think another thing that really hurt them, because they had the moral high ground for a long time. They brought in Flair. And I really did I like Flair and I liked the whole thing, but I think that a lot of people were kind of turned off by that because this was like the moral company and they went for the money instead, you know, and they used a guy that had a bunch of accusations. I think people were pretty upset about that. And the TV show has just been hit or miss.